Welcome to this week's market breakdown. I'm going to be breaking down trades that I took from this week, overviewing the market on the three sort of charts that I trade, and talking about what I think happened with price, why price did what it did, and what I think price will do on each one over the next few weeks. Now, in terms of market recap and previewing next week, this is all authentic. I've not done this before in terms of I have no plan going into this. I am just going to say what I see, which is the way I would like it to be. So it's stuff that you guys can feel that you can do as well, in terms of you can just hop on and say what you see. So yeah, that's what I'm going to do. First of all, we're also going to break down the trade we took today. It was a win on GBP JPY. We had two take profits before getting stopped out of break even by NFP, but as you will see in the group chat, for if you're in the free group, I closed another bunch of my position a couple of minutes before NFP because I was like, last few times there has been USD news. It has impacted GBP JPY quite heavily as well, so there's no point in taking that risk and worrying about what could happen. Let's just close some extra here and just take what we have. So that's what I did. Again, that's just stuff like market experience coming into play. That's hard to understand at the start, that sort of everything connects and everything's correlated, but over time that's something you just become more comfortable with, and yeah, so that's what I did. Obviously on GBP USD we can see it tanked a lot. UK 100 it barely affected. It just kind of helped it fill in efficiencies and continue the way it was going anyway. It didn't really do much for UK 100. So anyway, let's go and break down the pound against the yen today and all the trades I took this week. So let's go to the UK 100 because Monday or Tuesday, forgive me. I don't think I traded Monday. I didn't trade Monday markets for close. This was the first trade of the week. It was here on Tuesday. So if you just quickly allow me to see what I saw. Tuesday. I'm going to actually replay it. I think that would be best. I think that would be the smartest way to do it. Just so that way it's fully authentic. Okay, great. So, this is exactly what I was looking at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. I was very bullish for UK 100 because if we look on the weekly, albeit we hadn't filled this in officially at this point, but we were going for all-time highs. As you can see, all-time highs are like just here. So I was like, cool. We're rallying quite heavily. We clearly had a massive break of structure after accumulating for God knows how long on UK 100. It's time that we just keep the sort of bullish momentum and take all-time highs. So now we go to the daily. I was just like, cool, daily lines up. I like it. Then yeah, 15 minutes, which is where we are right this second. So that was my bias in terms of, I was like, cool, all-time highs are right there. Now, of course, it's not that easy to find bias on everything, because not everything is right beside all-time highs, especially on Forex pairs. It's a bit harder. I think the sort of reaching for all-time highs is a bit of a hack for indices that are very bullish and near all-time highs. But yeah. So the first thing, of course, I seen was this sort of liquidity grab. It was in pre-market. London Stock Exchange actually opens at 8:30, but I like trading UK 100 at 7 at Forex open because I often find that the liquidity grabs come in sort of either Forex pre-market, which like now, or in this zone. I find a good liquidity grab comes either between 6 and 7 or between 7 and 8. I jump on the charts and start looking at charts about 6, just because, of course, over time of trading UK 100, which hasn't been too long actually, but I have sort of back tested maybe 300 trades on UK 100. That this is something that seems to happen a lot. Again, it's just from sort of doing stuff over and over again for a long period of time. So we had this liquidity sweep in terms of we had this major low prior to sort of a breaker structure to the upside. We came and swept the low. I was like, cool, breaker structure to the upside here. I didn't think this was a sweep, but I had this more as a breaker structure. If I use the horizontal ray, because we closed above it, breaker structure, not liquidity sweep in my opinion. Sweep this time because we didn't close below it. So right now I was looking for a breaker structure. I was like, cool, we got one. We got a breaker structure. So I was like, where was orders filled here? I first thought order block, but then I was like, the order block looks a bit dramatic in the sense of when I go for order block plays, I usually like 2 candles or 1. I think like a sort of massive drop, 3 candles in a row. I'm like, not so sure. But I did like the look of the breaker for the exact same reasons as I gave about why I like some order blocks. It's just a clean, nice area, easy to spot for area where orders were filled. Does that necessarily mean that the breaker's correct and the order block's wrong? No, of course not. It's just, again, I like to keep my strategy and the way I trade very simple. I don't like to overcomplicate it for myself. I just think simplicity is key. So all I did was drag that breaker block across and seeing if it lines up with the fair value gap. If we take the bottom of this candle and mark it, and the top of this one, we have a fair value gap that is within the sort of range of our breaker block. This was what I call like my entry zone. This is where I want to take trades. Sense of my checklist is like liquidity sweep, breaker structure, and a fair value gap that lines up with the area where orders were filled. In my opinion, the orders were filled inside of this breaker block here. So I trade off of the area where orders were filled. Okay, only if it lines up with a fair value gap though. Yeah. So it lines up with fair value gap, the area where orders were filled. Sometimes I take double inefficiencies. That's a lie. I like double inefficiencies. But yeah, it's just like sort of the idea is to stack as many confluences on as high a time frame as possible. Hence why my favorites are the 5 minute, 15 minute. I don't like the 1 minute for the reasons I've just given. My stop loss here was at the Asia low. Just here. Just because, again, I risk very small, so I like to give myself a mixture of total breathing room, but I also think having my stop loss way below this low was taking a mick. In hindsight, in the future, I'm probably going to have like this candle close. I think that's still enough breathing room in the sense that I can be a little bit wrong if it wants to come into this inverse fair value gap here, but at the same time, it's not. So it's not too tight, but it's also not ridiculous. It would be a nice place, but I did have my stop loss at Asia low, which was too safe this time. Entry was just around here. TP1, I'm going off the top of my head, but from what I see, I think TP1 was here. Just at Asia high. And then TP2 and 3 were absolutely miles away, as in like in the past. Obviously, we know price skyrocketed. But if we look in the past, I believe TP2 was... TP3 was this high. I know that. And I believe TP2 was maybe this high. Or it was this order block, forgive me. TP2 was this order block. This 4-hour order block here that caused this move down. TP3. I believe they are the correct TPs. Again, I might be very wrong. Because we did hit all 3 on this. So if we don't hit all 3 on this trade, you know why. But it was something like that. I don't think it was 11 to 4. I think that's too high. So I'll need to go over. So as you can see, we got tagged in perfectly, and it was like sniper entry. Yeah, we hit TP3 around there. Oh, there we go. That was basically right. We hit TP3. Again, I probably didn't place it right. If you're in my Telegram group, you already seen it, but I share all the trades anyway. I've got screenshots of it. Well, no, that was the trade on Monday. And that was the reason behind it. It was pretty solid setup. It was a trade that was like very easy to see, but we're obviously pretty fortunate in the way of price was very bullish that day, so gave us just a clean move up. Wednesday, which was the first day of the 32 a million series, $30 to $1 million series. Marked up 6, 7, 8:30, 8:30 and 10:30. That's like the times I mark out. 10:30 is like my limit in terms of if it's like a minute after 10:30, I do not place a trade. So that's what I do. The first thing I do when I wake up is I like mark out these times. Let's remove these drawings. Oh, that wasn't ideal. That wasn't the smartest thing I've ever done. Place them at specific times and then remove them because I can't be bothered deleting stuff individually. Right, but anyway, this is the first thing I do. I wake up and then I place these. Okay. Again, let's look at what market did for on the daily time frame. Daily time frame's clearly still bullish, alright? Obviously still reaching for up here, ETH. This is also kind of like relatively equal highs. I hate using trend lines, but well, just to show you guys. These are like relatively equal highs, so you can see that's not too big a slope. It's not exactly level, obviously, but it's nearly there. So I think that's where we're going for, obviously, next, is to take them both out. And then probably a move down, just because that's the way the UK 100's been going. Alright, anyway. Go to the 15 minute. I was bearish here, just due to the fact that on the 1 hour we had sort of break structure, continuation of trend and all that good stuff on the hourly. But if we went to the 1 week, we hadn't filled this inefficiency yet. That inefficiency, this fair value gap was not filled yet. But yeah, I seen that it had not been tapped into at this point. If you go in the daily, hopefully it's not tapped into yet. Brilliant. It wasn't tapped into yet. You're just going to have to take my word for it. Well, you can see now here. There it is. I've marked it out, not been tapped into yet, and there's a bunch of liquidity sitting there. Some liquidity in this one as well. So I was like, cool, that's like my ending price target. I'm bearish. So then, if we play again in sort of pre-market here, it's literally the same setup as we took the day before. It was literally the same setup. In hindsight, I should have waited for this high to be swept, but I was like, liquidity swept in a sort of time zone exactly when we're like, that's when liquidity is usually swept. Not only that, the breaker block and order block, if you look here, we're like both one candle, both exactly the same height, more or less. Okay, so I was like, cool, we can use them both. I was like, it doesn't matter which one the orders were filled in because they are the same. My stop loss here, I can't even remember, but I reckon it was just it was around candle close because I was annoyed at myself I didn't have a tighter stop loss the day before. So I'm guessing it would have been there or maybe at the top of the order block. TP1 was this low. TP2 was something over there, and then TP2 might have just been the start of the mega fair value gap. As you can see, we lost this trade straight away, like within 5 minutes, and ultimately we were correct in the sense of we end up going into this inefficiency and everything's right. What could I have done better? Honestly, looking at the 5 minute, there's probably no entry in the sense of like we swept both these highs, cool, with this candle here, and came into like a higher time frame fair value gap. But for me to enter the trade, I would need a fair value gap that lines up with the area where orders were filled, which would be this order block, and a fair value gap doesn't line up with it on the 5 minute or the 15 minute. So it would probably just be a no trade, which is bad, and not bad, but it's just the way it goes. So we lost, which is frustrating, especially since obviously we knew where price was going. Well, this takes us on to Thursday. Thursday, we were bullish. I was actually adamant this was a better trade than it ended up being. Let me mark out 7 AM. Yeah, this was not as good a trade as I thought it was. I should have traded UK 100, which we will go over shortly. Again, this is just showing you my trades for the week. Right, pre-market, Forex pre-market. I've marked out 7 AM. You know what I would have marked out by now. I would have marked out 6 here. Oh, you know what? I'll just do it. 6 AM here. 8:30. Then 10:30. Okay. We swept all of these lows. And not only that, forgive me, I'm going to sneeze. Ooh. If I sneeze, forgive me because I'm pretty not well today. But that's just the way it goes. Work still needs done. We also had this Fair Value Gap. Even though it was like minor, it was like a wee mini Fair Value Gap, I was like, yeah, it lines up with this bigger area of accumulation. Which, if you're like been with me for a long time and been learning from me a long time, I love areas of accumulation, especially when price retaps into them. Just like my experience with them is like that is a very good confluence to have on your side. It's like accumulation that you came out of, and it's like tapped back into in terms of orders are being filled here. Obviously, if this was a sweep, I would be like accumulation, manipulation, distribution. But because this is a breaker structure, this is an area of accumulation, which I know is confusing. But the concept is that this is just an area where price is chopping around and gathering orders. The orders have been filled, price has risen, broken structure, re-enters, continues up. Again, I know it's complicated, but when my course comes out for free on YouTube shortly, I will go over it. I'm just writing the script for 80 lessons. As you can imagine, it's taken me quite some time because I want it to be as high quality for you all as possible. So anyway, Fair Value Gap that lines up with area of accumulation. Liquidity swept. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is brilliant. This is the best setup in the world. Obviously we worked past it slightly, but I'm like, cool, whatever. If we switch to the 5 minute, I entered slightly early, but it's better to be early than to be late in my opinion. Actually, that's not true. That's not true. That's a lie. I think my stop loss was around there. Take profits were up here somewhere. Alright, I've forgotten where take profits were, but you'll see in a minute. I hit 1 TP, I think, anyway. Oh, I didn't. I didn't even hit 1 TP. I closed it early, which I'm so glad I did, because news was going to come out at 9:30, which I need to mark out, because I closed it just a minute before. So if we play out, TP was higher than this. So it's a way to hit TP here, but just know that TP was higher. Sorry, on the 5 minute though, why did I enter? We had this bullish Fair Value Gap after break structure. I was like, cool, that lines up with this kind of mini breaker over here. Gives me this entry zone, which is not a very big entry zone. And yeah, not the best decision by me in the sense of here's a breaker, and it lined up with a 15 minute breaker, lined up with a 5 minute Fair Value Gap. That was like my entry zone, and obviously I just take it at the start of the entry zone because I want my order to be filled if I think it's a good trade. Ended up coming into this inverse Fair Value Gap, which I didn't spot and I should have at the time. I think I actually just neglected it, to be honest with you, which I shouldn't have done. I should have been like, I don't think price will come that low, but it did. So yeah, I ended up closing my trade here, just because there was GBP news, PMI that came out like a minute before I closed. A minute after I closed. I was right. A minute after I closed, there was GBP PMI news, which usually messes with my trades. So I was like, yeah, I don't want that mess with my trades today. And it turned out to be the right decision because, as you'll see in a second, price absolutely obliterated. If we 10x this speed, it wouldn't have hit TP1, and it would have. I don't even know if that is TP1, but you know what I mean. You're ready to see why. Yeah. So pretty glad. Again, even if this rallied to from 192 to 10,000, I still would have closed that trade at 929 because I don't trade PMI, GBP PMI, which is like the type of news it was. It was red folder news. Anyway, finally, this leads us on to today. Which I kind of broke down already in the $30 to In the $30 to $1 million trading series, I broke this trade down already, but I'll just do it again quickly before we sort of look at next week. If we go to, let me remove drawings real fast, just to keep it nice and clean, and just candles. If we look at the weekly, I'm like perma bullish GBP JPY for obvious reasons. Since March 2020, this has been a straight run. Obviously, there's been weeks where it's like there's been big dips and whatnot, but that's the same as any like sort of run like this. There's always going to be dips and times and runs, and you just need to live with it. But yeah, weekly fair value gap, which is great, but it wasn't sort of the one that made my day for what this is. It was just sort of on the daily. We filled that, and then on the daily it was this fair value gap here, which we're still in currently, which I'm oh yeah, of course we are, because of NFP. So yeah, obviously very bullish. Mega move to the upside, weekly fair value gap, daily fair value gap, and we broke structure back to the upside on the daily. So I was actually delighted the day before had retraced, because that obviously gave us room for our price to continue up. Go to the 15 minute. This is like exactly when I entered, so I'm going to need to mark everything out. Go to the 5 minute actually, just because this is what I entered off of today. Mark out 7. Okay, 7 a.m. What do we see? What do we see? Actually, I entered here. This exact candle. Okay, very similar to our setup on GBP the day prior, in the sense of a bunch of liquidity that we've swept into like a lower time frame inefficiency, a lower time frame imbalance, fair value gap, whatever you want to call it. Swept all of this, all of that, lows, 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 which obviously I'm on the 5 minute, but 27 5 minute lows are equal to like however many 30 minute or 1 hour lows. It's still lows being swept, plenty of liquidity, especially when they're all prominent like these. I'm like, muy bien, very good. I like it. Into a lower time frame imbalance. I'm like, that is excellent. Same setup as we've seen the day before. I should have entered earlier, but I didn't, because I was waiting for some more confirmation. And I'll explain why again. So by this time I was already on the 5 minute, just because that fair value gap. Remove that. I took this as my break structure to the upside. Okay. I took this as my breaker, and this is my fair value gap. So this was going to be my entry zone. Sorry, not that high. This was going to be my entry zone, and I'll explain why it wasn't. And it wasn't for one very simple reason that is not going to be too difficult to understand. That was going to be my entry zone, and not there. I've messed up again. Here, it would have been like enter there, but I never, and I'll show you why. I didn't, because if we go to the 1 minute, when I went to enter, we had this absolutely mega candle, and it dismissed it, and then we had this one. So like on the 5 minute, this was rapid for sort of 5 minute trading, and it absolutely tanked past it. Like, as I was, obviously, I'm human, I was on my phone away to place the order. I hadn't placed it yet. I was going to press buy when price had entered there. But it absolutely tanked past it. And I was like, ooh, that doesn't look so good. And that's exactly why. In hindsight, I should have just went for it anyway. But at the same time, I'm a human being. So I wanted a little bit more. I was just like, cool. On the 5 minute, it didn't, like, the body of the candle had obviously came back up. I was like, cool, if we have a bullish 5 minutes after this, I'll be in. I got filled. I entered at the candle close, but I got filled here. My stop loss was, I believe, somewhere around these lows. Again, in hindsight, probably should have been at this candle low here. I think it was like somewhere around here though. I can't remember off the top of my head. And yeah, obviously TP1 was like these highs. Or that's a lie. That is not true. TP1 was an hourly order block. TP1 was this hourly order block. That's not what I'm looking for. This is TP1 was hourly order block. TP2 was start of the fair value gap. TP3 was up here, this hourly order block, and TP4 was these highs. Because I was really bullish, and we just entered sort of higher time frame fair value gaps. I was like, cool, we are like primed for a big extension here. But obviously NFP came and absolutely destroyed that for us, which is fine because we planned for it. We came up, hit TP1 and 2, we kind of chopped around for a while. We were in this bullish fair value gap, so I was like, cool, we're just like accumulating for more extension. Then I remembered, NFP has like impacted GBP for GBP JPY the last few times has been big news. So a minute before, I've tried to let it run for as long as possible, but then a minute before, obviously a minute before this drop here, so somewhere in this candle, I just closed another half. So I only had like 0. In terms of like the whole size I put on, I had like 10% of my trade left, and so I had like next to zero risk on the line, which would have been 0.025% risk is what I had on, or 0.025% risk or something like that, something ridiculous. I had a ridiculous amount of little risk on just in case NFP didn't affect it and we continued to rally, but NFP did affect it. It tanked. We got stopped off at break even, but it was like nothing left at that point because we'd scaled out, because obviously it was best for us to close. And that is why I always close, and I do never trade news. I always close before news because it always hurts you more than it benefits you. Just my experience, and I will always do it. Even though I know that sometimes it will benefit me, the majority of times it won't. Okay, let's look at my outlook for next week. So if we go to the weekly to start, and we'll just talk about the next candle. Okay, let's think about this logically here. If this was a 5-minute time frame, all right, and we've seen this chart, what would you be thinking? You'd be thinking, okay, next candle bullish. It's that simple for me on the weekly. It would be like bullish market structure, clear sort of what appears to be, even with the bearish news today, what appears to be a clear bearish, a clear sort of perfect wick in a bullish fair value gap rally. So I'm probably looking for obviously this weekly high to be hit, probably the weekly high previous as well, 193. Again, we've not looked at the daily or anything yet. I am just brainstorming at this point. I've not even looked at this for next week before. This is my first time doing it. Daily time frame. Obviously, we're still sort of respecting that weekly fair value gap that's here. Also on the daily, we're in this one, broke structure to the upside, and another one that lines up with an order block. Got like a daily order block here. Lines up with a fair value gap. So this could be, if we again pretend this was like a 5-minute or 50-minute, this would be our entry zone. Remove that, and we're still in it. And it's like, I know wick's only a little bit out. So if we're pretending that this was a 15-minute, we would be like swept liquidity, broke structure, entry zone. We would be long in this, like if this was 15-minute during what we normally trade. So again, the same goes for next week. So for next week, like for the whole week, we're bullish. We're just pretending that this is TP1, this is TP2. That's all I do for it. It's like, if this was a trade, where my stop loss would be there, my TP1 would be there, and my TP2 would be there, and that would be it. Okay, it'd be perfect. We're still long, even though NFP was kind of iffy for that today. I still am. The only thing that contrasts this is, let's have a look at GBP USD, because this is obviously a whole different ballgame. I took a practice trade today on GBP USD. Again, I spoke about this practice trade in what's it called? In the episode of $30 to $1 million trading. So let's remove all those drawings and let's have a look. Oh my goodness, we're pretty bearish. It's just like my first initial inkling. Right, weekly. Obviously, we don't need to be that zoomed out. That's crazy. Right, weekly. Honestly, I am not too bearish anymore. Break structure to the upside. What do we have here? I'm seeing relatively equal lows. Could we, again, just brainstorming here, with this bearish, mega bearish news, could this be an opportunity for us to sweep? Could this be an opportunity for us to sweep all these lows? I think so. Is there anything else inside of here that we can use? There's like a mini inverse fair value gap here. So, and it lines up with an actual fair value gap. Again, just brainstorming. Because as long as we come up with the idea of bullish or bearish, we could be bearish next week if we go for there. But again, do I think we will reach all the way down to here in what appears to be the start of a bull run? Especially with GBP, JPY being so bullish, probably not. I'm probably just looking for these lows to be swept, which will probably be done, if not today with news, if we look at the daily. Ooh. That might even be done today, in terms of this low. Nah, that's crazy. What's the time? 2:16. I don't know. But even if it's not today, if it's Monday or Tuesday that we sweep all these lows, then just for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, obviously our bias would flip to bullish. I'm just looking for all of these sort of, this low as well. Is that low swept? Yeah, it is. No, it's not. We have a bunch of liquidity. Like a bunch. That low's not been swept. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 lows that are yet to be swept. Come absolute sweep. It's what we're looking for into like around here maybe, which will probably happen by Tuesday, I would imagine, if it wants to kick on next week. If it doesn't kick on next week and it's bearish next week, obviously we'll just avoid this chart and stick to the other two, and then that way we're probably looking for either highs here, even just this mini high would still be a nice run, as you can see. But yeah, probably here, this high maybe, this high. That's what I'm looking for. That's all it is. You're looking for the same things on a larger time frame that I'm looking for on a smaller time frame to give me a bias. UK 100 is clear as day what I'm looking for. We already spoke about it. I'm looking for these two highs to get absolutely nuked. They're just relatively equal highs, and they're at all-time highs, and we've just filled this fair value gap. I am so bullish next week. It's not even funny on UK 100. I am just looking. If I get A+ setups next week, I would be certain that, even though that you really shouldn't be certain, never be certain. Detach yourself from outcome of trades. Like in terms of when individual trades don't matter. But I am pretty sure that we're gonna have a nice bull run next week. If we don't, we don't. Again, if we don't, I don't care. I'll just trade this chart or I'll trade this chart. Again, if this chart's not moving well, I'll just trade one of the other two. It's not rocket science, but that's for me. For you, you should pick one chart and just like master it first. And just spend a long time getting good at one chart. Once you've mastered that one chart and spent like at least a couple of years, which sounds crazy, but in the span of your whole life, that is nothing. And just imagine how good you would be at understanding a pair if you spent a year mastering it, and then you add another pair, and then at the most 3, which is like, I'm never going to add another chart. I'm like super happy with these 3 charts. I'm still a student of the game as far as UK 100. Probably still a student of the game GBP USD, GBP JPY. I like to think you never master it really. That's a lie. But you get pretty good at it, and I like to think I'm pretty good at it now. But yeah, that is my weekly sort of review. And what I think price will do next week, my preview and review. So I hope you found value in this. If you did, great. Obviously keep sending me, please, criticisms with these videos. If there's stuff that you don't like, stuff that you do, let me know so I know what to keep and remove, because I am definitely a student of the game still in YouTube, and I want to really want to sort of make videos that are the most valuable to you guys. So I cannot do that if I do not know what I need to improve. So if you please just keep sending me, even if you think it's such a small thing, every small thing adds up. So I would just like to keep making improvements. Thank you all again, and I will see you next time.